afternoon, gardeners, and welcome back to Desert Gardening News, a Star Nursery podcast. I am your co-host, Madeline.
And I'm Joey Lynn. Nice to be here again, Madeline.
It's so exciting. We have podcast episodes coming out every single month, and today we are in the month of July, so there are a lot of things to talk about. We are in peak summer mode here in the desert Southwest, and this can definitely be a terrifying time for desert gardeners. Very terrifying. Even just walking out of your car, walking out of your house, you just get shocked with the heat, and it's okay. We have managed to get through this season many times, and we'll get through it again with a little help from your Desert Gardening News team. As an introduction, if you're new here, I'm Madeline. I'm a certified Nevada nurseryman for Star Nursery. And Joey Lynn, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what you do.
I'm Joey Lynn. I am Star Nursery certified arborist, and I'm also partner with Dr. Q, Paul, and we go out and we do the Dr. Q's house calls, and that is the only service at Star Nursery that will come to your house, and we are a diagnostic service. We go out and take a look at your trees and shrubs and plants, and we discuss nutritional deficiencies or insects, disease. We do it all. So we'll talk about irrigation and how to get your plants in the best possible shape and get them through months like this month.
Yeah, it's very likely that you may look into a house call this month, depending on how your season's going.
We're getting really busy. So
yeah.
If you are interested in a Dr. Q's house call, go to your local Star Nursery, purchase your house call in advance. Once you've purchased, I will reach out to you and get you on the schedule. Currently, it's $90 for the house call, and either myself or Paul will be there for up to an hour. We also have the house call service in Utah as well. And so in Arizona, we recommend that you go into the store in Arizona to speak with our local experts in person there, just because it's a little bit different and our staffing works a little bit differently out there. But Utah and Nevada, we are happy to go to your house.
So for today, we're going to start our conversation off with the news, and today's episode, we're going to be revolving around fungi. So fungi refers to any of the 144,000 known species of organisms in the fungi kingdom, which includes yeasts, rusts, smuts, mildews, and molds, and toadstools and mushrooms. So it's a very wide group that we're focusing on today. They're among the most widely distributed organisms on Earth, and they will distribute themselves very efficiently and effectively. And you will find species of fungi that was once native to one portion of the globe quickly migrate to the other portion of the world, just because of different things traveling. You know, it could get on a boat. It could be a part of a plant seeds are being distributed by. The spores of fungus could attach themselves anywhere, really. And so that's why they're kind of now becoming this fearful organism. We have the new hit HBO, I think it's HBO series, Last of Us, which was a video game about this zombifying fungus that takes control of the brain, turns people into zombies. And there is fungus that has done that to ants and has turned ant populations into like zombie ants. So maybe it's not too far-fetched, but we're not going to get into apocalyptic mode just yet. But fungus can become a little bit scary when we're talking about the latest in the gardening world and the agriculture world, because worldwide, growers are losing between 10 and 23% of their crops to fungal infections every year. It's becoming a problem. And researchers are making it known that it is a problem, and we're seeing it not just in one area, but in areas all around the world. And even without the heat of the season that is really adding to this growth of fungal infections. They're seeing 10 to 20% of agricultural crops being lost post the harvest too. So it's a problem, and it's a problem for a couple of different reasons though too. And one of the big key factors with this increase in fungal infections is our increase in temperatures, and we will continue to see an increase in temperatures. But let's talk a little bit about why that is. So fungus, as we know, thrives in high temps, right?
Well, there's something to always discuss there. It's called the disease triangle. Okay.
Right.
And the disease triangle, one side is the pathogen. Okay. And that could be a virus, a nematode, a bacteria, or a fungi.
Fungi.
Or a fungi, depending on how you say it.
Right.
The second of this triangle is a host. It's a living host. Okay. The third is environment. So when you get all of this in this perfect little triangle, that's what creates the problem. So we need to keep everything in its optimal shape, functioning well, and we need to prevent the pathogen from ever getting in. So a lot of this is preventative. And that's a bit controversial because when we think about insecticides or herbicides, we don't really ever want to do anything preventative because we just want to wait until we see the population. We know we're never going to knock out a population. We're just going to try to control it. But when we get into a fungus or a bacteria, they can stay in the ground for 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that's why. And also, it's a vector. They call it in the industry a vector of how it spreads. And the wind is a vector. Shoes are vectors. Pollinators are vectors. Pruning tools are vectors. So we really have to be conscious about it. And also we have our soils. It's made to be this constantly changing, decomposing, reproducing kind of environment. So how do we prevent them? We keep our soils healthy, reproductive or fertile. We keep our root systems functioning, so they're constantly taking up nutrients, nothing staying just idle in the soil. We don't have sick debris that we leave behind. So there's this balance that we have to find between debris that decomposes with a healthy soil or debris of diseased plant parts that just leave behind some kind of pathogen. So it is really, really important. Now, there are usually the fungus is through the molecules of water.
Yeah, they'll jump.
They'll go from plant to plant via wind, sprinklers, rain. So that's why we always say it's really important that you don't overhead water. When we water our plants, especially in this very, very hot season, because fungus need this perfect environment. So these are the months that we're looking for fungus in our yards because our temperature is high and our moisture from humidity, the monsoons. And when you go back to the question, why is it increasingly getting worse, is because we're now sustaining higher temperatures for longer and everything's kind of in flux. And when we don't have definite cooling periods that kills off this bacteria or the fungus, then they're allowed to stay, and we need these temperature changes, and sometimes we just don't get them long enough. And the rest of the world, with their humidity, now experiencing higher temperatures, and their part of the world, they're seeing a different type of fungus or a different effect from the changes in our environment.
And we don't want to make anyone scared of fungus
No.
because, these microbes, they do a lot for plants as well. Some can be mutually beneficial and some can be parasitic. And it's important to identify which is which when you're looking at your soils. Well, for one example, a beneficial fungus, not even using that terminology, we like to call it the mycorrhizae that we see in the soils. What those do is it almost increases the web and the surface area that a root system of a plant can get to. And it'll break up little tiny particles, and it'll get in the little nooks and crannies that maybe the roots are too big to fit in, and it'll get the nutrients that it needs to the plant, and the plant will, share some with the mycorrhizae, and they'll be beneficial. They'll benefit each other that way.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Neither one takes from each other. They help each other by breaking down the negative, and they just break it down. They balance it out. So these microbes will actually consume what would be negative for the roots and give back to the roots. And it's just this wonderful, wonderful web, like you said, and they benefit each other. And so we wouldn't have any new root growth without it. Mm-hmm. So we need it. And we need things in the soil that decompose for those mycorrhizae to be able to consume and stimulate those root systems. So it is important. With human intervention, we never want to obliterate a whole species of anything. We need a little bit of all of it. So we just want to control it. Mm-hmm. It's when things get out of control. And with a fungus will take down a whole tree. Yeah. Will take down a whole plant. So it is really important to understand the signs and the symptoms and how to prevent it before it even becomes a problem. That's where knowing that this month, what we're going to look for in our lawns, in our vegetables,
in our trees,
that's what we're going to look for.
Mm-hmm. And it's because in the desert Southwest, the month of July is actually going to be our most humid month. It's where we're going to see, I think it's like the most precipitation that we get because of monsoon
from the monsoon.
Yeah, from monsoon season. And on top of that, we're irrigating to combat heat. On top of that, we're overwatering, and so it's a perfect environment for these harmful fungus to get in and start destroying some of the hard work that we've done in our gardens. And another part of why they're so resilient is because our fungicides right now might only target one genetic process of the fungus that we're trying to control. And just like bacteria, fungus can be, they're very smart in a way that they will learn how to continue to grow and learn how to protect themselves from the fungicides we use, making our fungicides unusable and just kind of irrelevant.
Less effective.
But for a positive outlook on this situation, in 2020, chemists have discovered a new type of antifungal treatment that can target several different mechanisms. And that's going to make it more difficult for the fungus to develop a resistance towards the treatment. So there's something to look forward to with, the new research that's coming out. And we just will continue to control what we can and try to work with what we got until those new treatments are available to us. But when they are, we will be the first to let you guys know.
Well, in the plant world, we have a lot of resources for, and that's what we're going to try to cover today. We have a lot of ways to help you identify fungus in your yard, in your trees and shrubs, what common funguses, fungi, fungus,
fungicide, fungi
are here. Oh my gosh, we just now turned off every scientific person in the whole wide world because we can't get our terminology right.
If you guys have been watching our episodes, you understand that we get tongue-tied very easily, and it will consistently happen throughout the episodes.
Forgive us.
Yeah, we are not perfect. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what we wanted to touch on in terms of the newest and latest in our desert gardening world. And the focus for July is definitely going to be fungus, and you're going to see it. It's inevitable that you'll see it at this point. So without further ado, we're just going to go into what we've got planned for you guys and talk about how you're going to control these outbreaks in your gardens. So summer fungus, it is the hottest topic. And it's the hottest topic because it's the hottest month. So the July forecast is we're going to be experiencing the hottest weather. We're going to be experiencing potentially even record-breaking weather. We'll see. We're kind of known for that here in Nevada, especially with Death Valley. I think that, or Valley of Fire, all of that, where they always see the highest temperatures. So maybe they'll break some records again. And it's also going to be the wettest month. And that is what is going to contribute to the fungus that you're going to see. It's going to be the temperatures on average will be 97 degrees plus, and our average rainfall is actually going to be 0.87 inches. So we're close to a whole inch of average rainfall, which is, for us, it's simultaneously great and also awful just because of the growth of fungus that you're going to see. But there are some ways to protect your plants and protect your garden, and we're going to talk about that right now.
Well, let's start by talking about which fungus we see here typically. Now, the reason that it's such a big deal, we're lucky in the fact that we don't have very many diseases. We don't have very many things that we deal with, even with some insects. But what we do have does a lot of damage. So shot hole fungus is the common, that's what we call it, that's common. And that looks like a little shot hole. That's why it's called shot hole fungus, and it starts in a little circle. But if you look closely under a microscope, you will actually see the fungus where it started and how it grows. There's powdery mildew. Powdery mildew for every species of plant has its own type of powdery mildew, and powdery mildew will explode within 24 hours of a high temperature and a high humidity. So
by explode, the spores, right?
It will just spread.
Yeah.
It will just spread very quickly. It only needs 24 hours to do that. And how to help combat that is by regularly pruning. And we don't over fertilize. When we went at the beginning, I was talking about having optimal health. Over fertilizing your plants is probably the number one contributor to making a weak plant and this fungus being allowed to spread. So we want to prune so that there's lots of airflow and oxygen between the plant parts and the leaves, and nothing is really able to be real all bound up tight in this environment. And we want to make sure that we only fertilize what's necessary. Any overdoing it is going to have larger ramifications in the long run. There's corn smut. There's rust that we see here, and we see a lot of blight. Fire blight is becoming more and more common out here, and it literally looks like the plant has been caught on fire. And they want you to look for like the shepherd hook, this at the end of the branch curls and the leaves, and it looks like it's been on fire. And fire blight is really a bad blight to have. It stays in the soil for a really long time, and it can last forever, for good 10, 15 years in the soil. So if you ever suspect that you have fire blight, get to it as soon as possible. You may even have to remove the whole plant and remove all of the soil in that area. We see verticillum wilt, and that loves our high alkaline soil. So not only are we dealing with the heat and the humidity, we have fungus that actually thrive in our high alkaline soils. And that can withstand drought. It can withstand cold. Fusarium wilt is a wilt that palm trees get. This is spread. The vector for this typically are infected tools. So we have tree companies that don't properly clean their pruning tools. They go from one tree and they go and cut the next tree and they spread it that way. And it's devastating to have a very mature Canary Island date palm and it just go down because of a wilt like that.
And it happens fast.
It happens very fast.
Yeah.
We have a very common fungus that is sooty canker. Now, these fungus also overwinter. That means that they sit in the tree, and while our tree is dormant, they find a weak spot in the tree, and they just sit and they wait till spring. And come spring, when we start our first rains, they will go from one tree to the next, and they will just blossom. And before you know it, you lose the whole tree. And we'll talk more about preventing, if you can, more than that. But what we want to do is we want to reduce the ability for the disease to grow and survive and spread.
Yeah, you may even see mildew on your annuals. And one of the things that you can do, like we talked about, is watering from below. It's going to reduce the amount of spores that are able to spread. So if you see that, just remove whatever's infected and their annuals. So typically, if you need to, it might just be better to remove the whole plant and replace it. I know that not everybody likes to do that because they want to be able to, keep the plant healthy and alive. But at the same time, you don't want to risk your entire garden bed getting some sort of mildew on it. So it's better to just take out what you can and replace what you can as well.
One thing that if you do get a verticillum wilt in your tomatoes or peppers, you have to remove the plant. Mm-hmm. They cannot stay. And a good way to know if you have a wilt bacteria is the plant just looks like it needs to be watered. And if you go and you water that plant and it does not perk back up, and the soil conditions appear to be moist, not overly wet, then you could actually cut a clipping of the tomato leaf and put it in water. If that cut oozes this kind of milky kind of stringy discharge, then it's wilt and you need to get rid of it. The thing that I do want to say is that we do have pathologists here in Nevada. Every state has their state pathologist, and a lot of these do need to be specifically named. There are thousands upon thousands of different fungi, and there are thousands of different strands, and so it's impossible for us to know exactly. So we go off of this visual guide. It's like a field guide, and you can Google it. You could go to your cooperative extension, and you can actually see pictures of these kinds of diseases, fungal diseases that we've described. Yeah. And it will help you to understand what you're looking for. Lesions on leaves or stems are not a good thing. It's a spot. Streaks within the very, very soft tender plant parts. That's different than like a chlorosis, like when we're losing color in our leaves because of a nutritional deficit. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actual lesions. It's like if you were to get a bruise on you and the plant just looks like it's soft and gooey. Soils that have been infected will have growths on them.
Yeah.
Trees that have been infected or have some kind of disease growing within them will have a fruiting body that looks like a mushroom or a conch. Those are all warning signs that something is not right. Now, not all of them are harmful. Our lawns can have in our fungus. A lawn fungus will start out as a discoloration or a spot. And if you look closely at the blades, you'll see that it is an actual lesion on the leaf surface. And then it just spreads. Now, there's all kinds of different lawn fungus.
That's going to be a major one that you'll see in July.
A major one. And you can Google it, but stay within the desert Southwest. Go towards your cooperative extension, because you want to make sure that if you approach using a chemical product to reduce the effects of the fungus, or you want to prevent it, you want to make sure that you're actually serving the strand of the fungal disease in your area. So it's really important to know what it is. But a main one that we get here within our trees is sooty canker. Now, sooty canker is a fungal spore that blows in, and it's really, really affecting our ash trees right now, but our pine trees are now getting sooty canker. Our trees like our willows and our chitolpas and even our shrubs like our privets, they get sooty canker too. But the difference is they have the ability to grow so fast, and they have multiple branches and multiple stems that they can actually fight against the invasion of the fungus. It's a tree that's susceptible, like the ash trees, that really are no longer conducive to our high temperatures and our drought. And so this disease in trees is fatal. So
if you're looking for it in your tree, it's almost like a charcoal kind of substance that if you touch it, it kind of leaves like this black residue on your fingers. So make sure you're checking your trees regularly, especially this month, especially if you have outside contractors come into your landscape, just because of the way that it transfers from tools, especially in our region. It's important to make sure that you're checking for that regularly, because it is life or death when it comes to sooty canker.
Sooty canker is a fatal disease. There is no cure for it. We have worked with scientists to look for products that are going to help control it. So anybody that says that they can cure sooty canker or fusarium wilt or even verticillum wilt, they're wrong. They can't cure it. We can try to control it and keep it at bay. One of the products that we have recommended for sooty canker is by Monterey Company, and that is Garden Foss. It is an amazing fungicide. It is great for vegetables, herbs, fruit trees, plants, and it is you can do it as a soil drench. You can do it as a foliar spray. You can actually put it on the bark of trees. And so this is stuff that you want to look for when you use any over-the-counter chemical to help with the fungus, is that you read the label and you know how it's applied. So you can head to our website. We have a publication on how to control sooty canker in ornamentals. And I really, really recommend that if you think that you have a tree that is infected with any of the wilts or the sooty canker, that you give me a call, hire me to come out and take a look and diagnose what is happening with your trees, and we can come up with some kind of a plan to help control. I think it's really important that we talk about what it means to have clean pruning tools.
Yeah.
Every tree and shrub has the potential of having a disease that you don't even know about. And when you go and you prune, or you have a company that prunes, what you want to do is you want to disinfect your tools. It's a very simple process, and it could save your trees. And there's two ways to do it. You can dip your tools in a bleach and water mixture. Typically, it's 1 part bleach to 10 parts water. The only negative about bleach is corrosive. So you got to leave it in the water for a good 10 minutes for that bleach to really, really get it to the disease or the fungus or the bacteria. So what I like to recommend is that you just use rubbing alcohol, a 70% or above rubbing alcohol. You spray your tools till dripping wet and shake off the alcohol. The alcohol dries very, very easily. It does not rust or corrode your tools, so it's really, really great. But we're talking about sterilizing chainsaws and loppers and pull blades and hand saws. Prune anything that touches the plant and breaks that plant part. After one tree, disinfect till you move to the next. If you have a tree that is infected with a fungus or a disease already, then you have to disinfect after each cut.
Yeah.
And that's why having outside companies, it's really important that you do your homework and you make sure that you observe them cutting from one tree to the next.
So we've talked a little bit about what kind of fungal infections you can expect to see in our desert Southwest environment. And we talked a little bit about the products that you could use. So the first thing that we said, we talked about Monterey Co. There's a couple of products that we'll talk about from BioAdvance as well. But when you're using a fungicide, what's probably the most important thing to consider?
Timing.
Yeah.
Timing. We want to get to them before you have the problem. A great time for our deciduous plants that go into dormancy, is when they are completely dormant. And we will use sprays. We will use our copper fungicide at that time. There's sulfur fungicides, and each one has a different application, and it can be used to fight a separate kind of a disease. So bacterial cankers can be help prevented with a copper fungicide. Brown rot, the blossom rot, any of the palm fruits, like an apple, a pear, those you can use a copper fungicide. Captain Jack's is also a product that we love. It's got spinosad in it, and it is got the ability to actually penetrate the leaf cuticle, and that's why we like that. But it helps to get. We can use that in organic gardening all the way up to the day of harvest. Sulfur fungicides, that's what we can use for like our apples and our blackberries. We can use that on our nectarines, our peaches, our roses, our prunes. And that's a sulfur plant fungicide that you can use in dormancy when they're dormant. And the labels are going to tell you the timing that you can use all of that stuff. As far as other fungus control, we think about neem oil. Neem oil is a fabulous natural organic oil. It can be used in dormancy. It can also be used when the plant isn't dormant. So depending on what it is, depends on if we can put it on a leaf or not. So it's important for you to know the timing of using it. Neem oil is okay to use on the leaf, but we can't use it once we're above 85 degrees or in a full reflective sun situation, because that oil sits on the leaf and it will actually burn the leaf. So really important, read your labels. And the other thing that we would like to talk about right now are lawns.
Yeah.
This is major, and this deserves a lot of time to talk about lawn fungus.
Your lawns are at war right now.
Well, the thing about lawns is that lawns can have a wide area, a variety of problems within it. So you have a portion of your lawn that's full sun and it seems to not be able to have enough water. And then you have a portion of your lawn that's in shade, and that's where you're going to see the fungus. And so if you have an area that is in shade and you're watering multiple times a day, hopefully we've taught you that you water an hour before sunset. That should be your last watering of the day. That gives you enough time to have those dewdrops evaporate off of the blade of grass, but yet you've watered so that the root system has enough moisture to get it through the evening. And then by an hour before sunrise, you're ready to do your first watering of the day. Okay, so that's going to be your prime time to water your lawn efficiently. An hour before sunrise, so we do our first soaking. Then sunrise happens, we get that first amount of water to evaporate off the blade. And then if we need to do a second one before 10 o'clock, when it's too hot, we don't ever want to water in the daytime because it just evaporates. That second watering will get a deeper soaking into the lawn's root system. And we're thinking about 3 or 4 minutes of watering. And then our last watering of the day, if it's in a full sun situation, is going to be an hour before sunset. That is ideal. If you're watering within the nighttime, you're guaranteed to have a fungus in the lawn. Now, if you see that you have a fungus in the lawn, we have a product that is very, very helpful for that. And it is a spray. It's called from BioAdvanced. It's fungus control for lawns. And not only does it cure it, but it prevents it. So using it, if you have a chronic area in your lawn, like I know we do, we have a lawn in the backyard for our little puppy, and we have an area that it's just chronic. It always happens no matter what we do. So we use this at the beginning of the season, and then once we start to see that spread again, and like I said, there's little patch that happens, and it's like a ring that happens, and then it just spreads. You can use this multiple times in the season, but keep in mind that when you use the fungicides and the fungus control, it's killing the fungus and most likely going to kill that lawn blade. So you're going to have patches in your lawn, and then come fall, you're probably going to want to overseed in that time. But those are what you're going to look for right now is the fungus control. I like that product because, like I said, it's going to not only cure it, but it will absolutely help prevent it. And keeping your irrigation timing and no overhead spraying for plants and shrubs, all at surface watering, and you can do a lot to help prevent having these very, very damaging fungus in your lawn and garden.
And a couple of tips for that. You are able to spray that on your blades of your lawnmower too, and that could be an effective way to spread that control if you're having some major problems. And one more tip we'd like to share, if you're experiencing a fungus in your lawn, be careful of you, your kids, or your animals walking through lawns, especially if there's moisture present, the likelihood is that you will end up spreading the fungus that you're trying to control, and it's just going to make a bigger mess. And it's important just to be considerate of that so that you're not making a bigger hassle for yourself in the future.
I know. We could talk so much more about this. This is just the surface of it, but there's lots of resources out there for you. Any questions you guys have, you guys want to take a picture and email it to housecalls@starnursery.com if you have any questions, or you have questions on the resources where you can find pictures that are going to help you. And remember always, if worst case scenario, if you're talking about a tree or a shrub that is extremely valuable to you, meaning it's providing shade and coverage, and the inability to get what you're seeing under control, you have the ability to get testing done on it. And we can help you find resources to help you take a sample. We can tell you how to take a sample and send off a sample to your state pathologist and get a name of that strand so that you can better control it or even possibly eliminate it. But without those steps, you could end up losing your plants and your lawn. So we don't want you to do that.
No. And we hope that we are able to get you guys starting to think about, the right questions to ask when it comes to fungus this month, and hopefully pointed you in the right direction of where to go, what to buy, and what to look out for. That way you can be successful and you can help prevent it a little better in your gardens and landscapes. And that's going to be all for today. Our last thing that we're going to do today is our little quiz show where we ask the experts some questions and see what they know. And this quiz show will be all fungus related, as was the rest of our episode. So are you ready for your questions today, Jolene?
Okay. This is the scary part for me.
No. It's not that bad. Okay. So first question, true or false, fungus is classified as a plant?
True. No, plant? See, I already got it wrong. I fell for it. I fell for it.
It was a trick question.
It was. I fell for it. I was thinking a living organism, so I got that wrong.
Okay, well, they used to be classified as plants until research actually discovered that they have more in common with lobsters than they do trees. So there is a crazy, just like, remember, I think they came out with the research that humans are related to bananas, like our genetic makeup. It's kind of the same wavelength as that. So,
yes,
it's okay.
I've got a tough outer and a mushy inside. I am a banana.
I am also a banana. All right. So next question, true or false? Mushrooms are, the largest living organism in the world is a mushroom. True or false?
I don't know. I would say true because
you're right.
Kind of led on to that.
Yeah,
that is true.
You're right. It is true.
Okay.
So it's actually the honey mushroom in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. It covers 2.4 miles.
What? One?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like one big toadstool that you're going to see, but this, interconnectivity.
This is really, really interesting because, like we were saying, not all fruiting bodies are bad. Mm-hmm. And does this fruiting body?
Yeah.
So this is bad. Tell me.
This species, and it's called a honey mushroom. It does kill trees and woody plants. Mm-hmm. So it is not something that you would ever want to see in your gardens or landscapes. But it is to this day. 2.4 miles worth of it makes it the largest living organism in the world.
How do they approach it and control it? Is there any control? What's?
I'm sure they are. They've got to have something, some sort of intervention, unless it's just so native that that's what it does and that's what it is and that's where it is. I don't have information on that right now, but if there's any Oregon dwellers that want to, message us and talk to us about your experience with the honey mushroom, we would love to learn more about it. We are not mycologists or anything.
No, obviously.
Obviously not. So I won't try to tell you anything more than what I've got on here, but it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
And our last question of the day, fungus, true or false, can be bioluminescent.
Does that mean it's like it glows in the dark?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool because, not a lot of organisms are bioluminescent. A lot of the time it's fish that we see and, corals, and a lot of like underwater life can be bioluminescent. But, on top of the surface, we're looking at mushrooms being bioluminescent, and also fireflies have that same compound that makes them bioluminescent as well. So they are similar in that way. And it's just some fun facts. I mean, we kind of made fungus out to be this big bad creature right now, but there are some amazing things about fungus to learn, and it's always going to be around. So why not learn about it?
I have one for you.
Oh, yeah?
And we probably talked about it, but we talked about so much today.
I know.
True or false?
Okay.
Dog vomit is a fungus.
True.
True.
Yeah. If you see that in your lawn,
Yeah,
true.
it does. It looks like a whoop. For those that don't see us on YouTube, it's a whoop. It just is this pile of yuck, and you literally come out and look and you go, oh, my dog was sick. Now,
There's
dog
also-
vomit, that strand of fungus, actually last year during house calls, I did a house call, and the fountain grass.
Right.
I was showing somebody how to properly clean out the fountain grass because it wasn't growing. And typically with the grasses, I put my hand in there and I pull out, and all of a sudden there was like this mass in there, and it was just gross. And I kind of had to pretend like I was really professional and not get really worked up. I was like, what? It was like, it looked like a brain. It was just really bad. And it was this gray matter. It looked like a brain within the plant. And it was so gross. And I started to have an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
They're very, very toxic. There are some fruiting bodies that are actually very toxic. So if you come upon a fruiting body, make sure that you put on gloves and you wear a mask and you don't handle them. And then they go into a plastic bag, you zip it up and you put it in the trash. You don't compost them. You don't put them in your garden. That's the last thing that you can do. Even if that you think that they're beneficial, no, get them out, put them in a plastic bag, and put them in the landfill. We don't want them in our gardens. And wear protective gear, because I tell you, I was having an allergic reaction and it was bad. And I didn't know what I was handling. That's the other key, is that you may not even know what you're handling in your yard. And you may not even know that you're being the vector that we talked about early on in the episode. And so just be careful. Let us know if you have any, if we opened up a can of worms here and we started a conversation that you need more information about,
we can continue
please
to talk
feel
about
free to reach out to us. You can find us on all of our social media platforms. Go for it, Madeline. This is where you know every aspect and nook and cranny we are.
I know, but I think it's a great thing to end off this conversation. Protect yourselves, protect your environment, read the label.
Yes.
And wash your hands and anything else that touches the plant, because you don't want to spread it anymore that it's already being spread. But we are going to end off on that. If you'd like to be involved in everything Star Nursery, you are more than welcome to follow our socials. We are on Facebook at Star Nursery, Instagram at Star Nursery LV, and Twitter at Star Nursery. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you already know that we are Dr. Q on YouTube side of things. And if you're listening to our podcast today, we're on Spotify, Desert Gardening News, and anywhere that you get your podcast. And we're so excited to continue on throughout the year with more interesting topics. So make sure to come back next month where we'll be talking about who even knows? Who even knows what we got going and planned? We have so much to talk about, guys.
I
We
know.
have only just gotten started, but it's so excited to share all this information with you. And we hope you learned something new, and we hope that you will stick around for next month's episode as well.
Madeline, thank you so much. This is just always so exciting. I can't believe how thrilling our conversations are. I just enjoy being with you so much. And thank you for everybody that's been listening. And we will see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.